Hey everyone, we are live with the Combatcast, and it's the man called Dave and Chevy. Please, if you enjoy us and you haven't already, subscribe. We'd appreciate it. All right, we're going to talk about this past weekend's UFC Fight Night between RDR and Brendan Allen. We're also going to preview UFC 321. Chevy, before we get to everything, why don't you tell people what we got coming up?
All right, November 1st, UFC Fight Night, Garcia versus Onama. I guess we'll talk about that. We'll probably be mostly reviewing this upcoming card because I could not care less about Garcia and Onama. That card is maybe the worst card I've ever seen on paper.
Yes.
Of course, that'll be in the Apex. And then following that one up with another Apex card, November 8th, UFC Fight Night, Bonfim versus Brown. I am a little bit more interested in that one. So, and then November 15th, big one, UFC 322, Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev. That is obviously 10 p.m. here on the East Coast, and it's from MSG in New York City.
Yeah, that should be a big one right there. All right, let's get to UFC Fight Night here while I'm sharing everything. The Riddler versus Allen. And this is a part where I would normally ask you about, exciting prelims, but also want to talk about the guy that was paid tribute on this show to the passing of legendary kickboxer, legendary MMA coach, Duke Roufus.
Yeah, unfortunately, MMA lost one of the few good guys in the sport. Duke Roufus passed away in his sleep, as we all hope to go, but only 55 years old. So real shame. He had quite the team up there. We talked about it before. He had Tyron Woodley was a champ for him. He had Ben Askren, champ over in one championship. Pettis brothers, obviously. Paul Felder. You mentioned CM Punk.
Yeah, CM Punk. I mean, when he was going to train, that's where he went to train. Obviously, he's not one of the legends of MMA.
Yeah, but also before all that MMA, he was a great kickboxer, world champion, multiple time world champion. So shout out to his family and the UFC put on. It was very short notice for them, but. I think one day, so it was a short tribute, but Paul Felder had some nice words to say. He was on the commentary booth for this card, and so rest in peace, Duke.
Yeah, rest in peace, Duke Roufus. He was somebody I always like listening to when he talked about his guys. You really got, especially with the Pettis brothers, you felt like there was a real family environment, and he really helped those kids out a lot.
Yeah, I mean, their father died when they were young, and Duke basically took them in. They talked about that, and then Felder talked about that too when he went there, and he changed his whole life. He was sleeping in his gym, and they traveled the world together and everything. So yeah, the MMA world lost a good one. They're already a small number to begin with. So all respect to his family and all those fighters.
All right. Well, hard way to transition, but we'll get back to the fights. Was there any other fights you talked about after? I only saw the co in the main, and I understand there was a lot of good prelim fights on this show.
This prelim card was as good as any prelim card I've ever seen. It was phenomenal, top to bottom. We're not going to go over the whole thing because we already have a lot to go on in the show, but there was also quite a bit of controversy, as we've been seeing a lot lately, but I'm probably going to go out of order here. But Kyle Prepolek versus Drew Dober. Dober got a TKO in round 3 after losing a point for multiple groin shots. Obviously not on purpose. Drew's not that fighter, but it did happen, and Kyle was hurt. He had to take the full 5 minutes and then ended up getting KO'd. So, and also, we'll just keep this mood going on, unfortunately. But Dober talked about in his post-fight press conference about going through a lot of issues, and one of the issues, unfortunately, was he lost a child during camp, which is unimaginable at any time. But you're getting ready to go fight a grown man in your underwear in a cage.
Unborn child, right? It was during the.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, pregnant. Yeah.
but just, to try to keep your focus with something like that going on. So, love and respect to Drew Dober. I am a Kyle Prepelic fan. I was kind of rooting for him, but I do love Drew too. So the way he came out too, when he knew he was a point down, when he had lost that point, he did what Alex did a couple weeks ago to Ankalaev. Just rushed him and put it on him and finished him. So intelligent from him. Another issue, Kyle Nelson versus Matt Frevola. Always in exciting fights. Kyle Nelson got a decision win, but he basically had Matt out unconscious at the end of the first round. And our friend Big Dan Murgliata stopped the round with 3 seconds left on the round. Everyone thought he called the fight because Matt was basically out. But he said, no, that was just the end of the round. So it didn't end up mattering because Kyle ended up getting the win anyway. But if he had gone on to lose, it would have been a big deal, I'm sure. Big Dan got boos for all the rest of the night because Kyle is a Canadian guy. Big time Canadian fan. So he got booed every fight after that for the rest of the night.
Oh, no.
Another Canadian guy doing the business. Charles Jourdain versus Davy Grant. Jourdain locked on what is becoming a signature for him, a guillotine in round 1. It was a great performance. He was throwing these incredible flying knees. And he landed one that smashed Davy Grant's grill all up and bloodied him up bad, and then jumped on there and got that guillotine. So he's pretty exciting one to keep an eye on down at bantamweight now. He was at featherweight and moved down to bantamweight. So
good night for Team Canada.
yeah, for sure. And then another Canadian guy got a win. Eamon Zahabi gets a win over Marlon Vera in a split decision. So Marlon, obviously known as a very slow starter, and he's lost a lot of decisions because of that in these 3-round fights. And he did pick up the pace a little bit, but it just wasn't enough. He just has to do more. He was very upset with the decision. To me, I thought he lost clear as day, and I'm a Cheeto fan. So
right.
Yeah, he's just maybe a change of camp or something. He's got to do. They have to get it instilled in him. Like, no, you need to go forward in volume. He gets caught kind of sniping and waiting for counterattacks. He would crash in and they would both throw shots. And I think he thought he was winning a lot of those exchanges, but it kind of just looked like he was slapping Zahabi on the top of the head, and Zahabi was landing actual shots in those exchanges. So I think that's where maybe his confusion comes from. So I don't know what's next for Zahabi. He just keeps winning. Yeah, I mean, he has 7 wins in a row or something like that. So good for him. But let's get into this main card here. Main card had some ups and downs too. So start off with Kevin Holland versus Mike Malott.
So watching this fight, and again, I had some stuff spoiled for me this week, so I wasn't as invested as I probably should have been. But a couple things stuck out. Malott's speed advantage, in the striking, was very evident. It was a very interesting competitive first round, I thought, up into the groin shot. It got me thinking. The first one, yeah. Right. Yeah. But it got me thinking too, because there's a show. This is going to be kind of random, but it's going to play again in our main event. What if? And it's these Marvel series, and they talk about these different timelines. What if this happened? And I just wondered, because after the second nut shot, Holland looked to me obviously it's getting kicked in the balls and it hurts, but he also mentally never looked like he was there for me. And I just thought, man, what would have been happened if we actually took a point away, even though he didn't mean to do it? It clearly affected the fight, and there should have been a point taken away. I'm not saying Holland wins. I'm not even telling you Holland's the better fighter. I saw Malott, and I thought, okay, this guy's got some speed. This guy looks really good out here, and I'd like to see what's next for him. And yeah, that was my impression. He was just a better fighter, and I thought speed kills, but man, so does nut shots, and we could have probably done a little better with taking a point in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, so the commentary team talked about this. the consistency in the reffing is just it's not there, because that exact thing happened in the Dober fight, and they took the point from Dober, but they didn't take it from Mike Malott. So, whether it was because it was in Canada and it was against the Canadian fighter this time, they talked maybe that has something to do with it, but it doesn't matter. I mean, we've talked about this before. Fucking cage grabs, eye pokes, groin strikes, take a point. It doesn't matter. It affects the fight. Clearly, Kevin Holland, I mean, honestly, they could have stopped the fight. They asked him about 50 times, "Are you okay to go?" And he never said yes. I mean, he's a fighter. He's not going to say no. He doesn't want to quit on the stool, which we'll talk about later. Doesn't want to go out like that. He's not that type of guy. And most people in the UFC are not going to say, "No, I can't continue. I can't do it." I mean, his corner needs to step in. The ref needs to say, "No, you're done." I mean, he could not move around. Luckily, he made it to the end of the round, and then he was still struggling after that.
He was,
but he was partially recovered. But
even in between rounds,
he just never fully recovered. They brought the doctor in to talk to him. They're asking him, "Can you go?" And he just wasn't. And then they came in and told him it was unintentional. You're going to lose by disqualification if you can't continue. It doesn't make any sense. It was a bad night for reffing. Nobody knows the fucking rules to this sport, even though it's their job.
I know. It is crazy.
Yeah. And then Mike kept throwing the inside leg kick or the teep kick. He didn't think he hit Holland in the groin. The ref said he heard it hit the cup. So clearly he did. So I don't know. It was a nightmare of a fight. Sure, I guess it's a win for Mike Malott. He probably can beat Kevin Holland on any night. But it's a win on his record, but it is a freak thing. I don't think Kevin should feel too bad about it. I hope he's okay, because he was really struggling. But I don't think either guy's coming out of this with a lot of brownie points going forward in the rankings or anything.
No, Kevin was 15 going into this fight. So I imagine Mao is going to crack and be 15.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him fight Jeff Neal next, because Jeff is only a few spots above him. And you talk about a test, because Jeff Neal is speed.
Nobody has faster hands in the division than Jeff Neal.
No, so I'd like to see, it's probably too soon, but it'd be an interesting matchup just to see the fireworks for however long it lasts.
Yeah, that would be a fun fight for sure. Yeah, I'm down for that one. All right, let's get into the main event. Rener de Ridder versus Brendan Allen.
Yeah, it's funny. I knew Allen, won this fight going into this, and I knew RDR quit on the stool in round 4, and he had enough and exhaustion. And as I'm watching this, and this is where the what if thing was really popping in my head, was his first round. Because in his first round, RDR did take him down at one point, and he had a choke on him. It looked pretty solid.
Within the multiple chokes on him. He had an arm triangle, and he had his back.
But there was one in the triangle in the beginning, the first minute of the fight, maybe first 2 minutes. And I thought to myself, holy crap, if he had tapped out Brendan Allen here or even choked him unconscious, what a different story this is. This is a guy who was already undefeated. He's clearly going to be in line for a title shot very soon, and he's just got nothing but buzz coming off of this. Instead, he's the guy that quit on the stool, and that's unfortunate because it's a tough sport. And I do wonder if that's one of the reasons why he was really trying to go out fast in the beginning. Maybe he knew that he had a bad training camp or something was going to be off on him. And
he had a bunch of excuses. He said he was sick and stuff like that. So
whatever. I mean, who knows? You know what I mean?
I'm sure he was. Yeah, I'm sure he was.
It doesn't. At the end of the day, Brendan Allen. It's just it's the story is though he's going to have to go way back to the drawing board, and he becomes one of those guys who's outside of UFC. Who, it's a different level of competition. But man, if it just been that 1 second earlier, this is a guy that would have been cooking. And, whatever. At the end of the day, Brendan Allen, though, complete fighter himself. We talk about all the time. And now Brendan Allen, once again, has a little momentum in his way, especially coming off the previous fight with a win over Marvin Vettori. And now this. So Yeah, he's a guy that could be at some point maybe looking at a title shot. I think he'll probably need another win, but good for him.
Yeah, him and Sean Strickland, he had some good call outs, so I think that's a good one. But yeah, I mean, back to like you were saying, him getting out of that arm triangle choke, that was early while they're still dry too. So it's really hard to get out of those submissions when both guys are dry. And then the fact that, and I'm not, RDR quit on the stool. Yeah. But I'm not like calling him a quitter. He certainly gave everything he had. You could tell he just didn't have anything left. So I would not be surprised if he was really, truly sick. And I saw some things where he also had like some injuries and stuff. But he gave everything he had. He could barely get up off the mat at the end of the second and third round. So, and the funniest thing is Allen took this on relatively short notice. Right. It was like 2 or 3 weeks or something. And he was the one that was really worried about having the gas tank to go and ended up just gutting it out. He always looked the fresher fighter. So, and not afraid to grapple with RDR, who we know how dangerous he is, did really well in a lot of those situations too. So, it was a good look for Brendan Allen. That was exactly what I've been waiting to see from him. I think that, and he talked about it too, the new camp, going with Bilal all the time and dealing with Bilal. Bilal does not put on the most exciting fights, but he is very intelligent and he stays very safe in his fights. And that's what Brendan Allen needs. He needs just that little jump in the fight IQ, stay a little bit safer, and that can get him to the title. So I'd like to see that Sean Strickland one next. And then, hopefully a title shot after that.
I'd like to see DDP just because it's a fight we haven't seen. And I think you're right with Strickland, but I think DDP is just a little more interesting to me just because we haven't seen it. And if he wins that one too, I think he's getting a title shot. It
makes sense for DDP too, because he was dominated so much that he's going to have to like fight down to someone who, he, is going to have to fight down the rankings quite a bit. So yeah, I'm down for that one too, for sure. That is a very tough matchup, very similar styles. With DDP being a bit wilder, but fun fights either way.
All right, let's get to it. UFC 321, Aspinall versus Gane. And before we get into this main card, any prelim fights you want to call out?
Just a few exciting fighters. Chris Barnett, we always love seeing, he's like the Kung Fu Panda guy, wheel kick Gian Vellante. Walter Walker is back with a new opponent, looking to leg lock a new guy. I'm pretty sure he's fighting like an undefeated guy. I can't remember his name. Nasrat Hakparast, I'm a fan of him. He kind of looks like Kelvin Gastelum.
Yes.
And then Ikram Alaskarov is fighting Jung Park, the Iron Turtle. I always bring up the Iron Turtle whenever he fights because he's always fun. Him and Alaskarov are going to put on a war for sure, 100%. So I'm looking forward to that one. But let's get into this main card here. Remember, this is a 2 p.m. Eastern card from Abu Dhabi pay-per-view. So
explain some names.
Yep. A lot of Middle Eastern or Russian guys on here. So Aleksandar Rakic versus Azamat Murzakanov.
All right. Azamat is 15-0, 11 KOs, 1 sub, 3 decision. He's 5-0 in the UFC, and he's got 4 knockouts and 2 performances of the night. Aleksandar is 14-5, 9 KOs, 1 subs, 4 decisions. He's lost 3 in a row, but only to like top competition. 6-4 in the UFC overall, and he's had 1 performance of the night over Jimmy Manuwa a while back. Aleksandar to me is a very exciting fighter, a lot of fun, and he's had some really good stiff competition. But this seems like in Abu Dhabi, Azamat undefeated. We're setting him up here to like be the next guy. Strength of schedule is the thing we talk about all the time, so it will be interesting. I'm gonna go with my gut, and my gut says Azamat will win this by decision. But strength of schedule, we're gonna see how he reacts when they're with somebody who's fought a lot tougher competition.
Yeah, you basically parroted exactly what I put in all my notes as well. You know, he's probably fighting for his job at this point. Lost 3 straight, and they give him undefeated KO artist
Right.
Murzakanov. So he does have an experience advantage in the UFC. He's the younger guy, but he has much more UFC experience. And obviously that leads to strength of schedule. But I'm not sure that's going to be enough. I'm with you. I think Azamat gets it done. I'm going to say KOs him. I think they just probably go right at it in round 1. So
it's funny when you mentioned the fact that he probably is fighting for his job. I am going to change my pick. I think Azamat is going to get a KO only because the way they're going to fight too. It's going to probably this is probably going to be a crazy one.
Rakic is a great striker, and he could KO him as well. But absolutely. I think just momentum. We talk about that a lot too. Murzakanov has the momentum. So, all right, moving on. Heavyweight fight here. Aleksandar Volkov versus Jailton Almieda.
Almeida is 22-3, 8 KOs, 13 subs, only 1 decision. He's had performance tonight 4 times. Fewest strikes absorbed per minute in UFC history. All right, when it comes to like heavyweights, it was something like 0.98. So I thought that was an interesting stat.
Heavy grappling style, yeah.
Aleksandar Volkov, 38-11, 24 KOs, 4 decisions. 4 subs and 10 decisions. He's won 4 out of his last 5 fights. This is a guy that's been around forever. He still fights really good at heavyweight, and he's probably out of the 2 of them had the more strength of schedule, unlike our last fight. That being said, I'm going to go Almeida here, and I won't be surprised either way, but I'll go Almeida, and I'm going to go submission, round 2.
Yeah, Almeida probably has the best jiu-jitsu in the division. You would put him right up there with Tom Aspinall at least, but he also should probably be fighting at 205, and Volkov is humongous. Plus, he has great takedown defense. So on the feet, he should box Almeida's face off. His low kicks are usually a great weapon as well, but he should stay away from those so he can avoid those takedowns. So, he's just been around forever. So I think Volkov gets it done. I think it's going to be a decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got a late TKO either. All right. Probably the most boring fight on the entire night here. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Bautista.
Yeah, stylistically, this is going to be the one that goes decision. Will be challenging. Mario Bautista, 16-2, 3 KOs, 6 subs, 7 decisions, 10-2 in the UFC, 8-fight win streak. Performance of the night 2 times. Fight of the night as well. Umar Nurmagomedov, 18-1, 2 KOs, 7 subs, 9 decisions. Fight of the night once. Performance of the night twice. Second highest control time and percentage in bantamweight history. I bet Merab has first. Merab is the only guy to ever beat this guy, by the way. And I don't
was his last time out too. So Umar's going to be looking to make a statement, I think.
Hopefully the defensive and the wrestlingness cancels each other out and we end up having a pretty exciting fight. I wouldn't bet on it though. But I will bet on Umar. I think Bautista, despite some of the boring fights, that is really good. But Umar, I think, is probably better than anyone in this division not named Merab at this point. So until I see otherwise, I'll go with Umar. Decision.
Yeah, Bautista not earning himself a lot of fans after his last few fights, but he has deserved a shot at these top guys, and he gets it. So Umar is probably better than him everywhere. I can't see Mario being able to just hold Umar against the cage for a minute, let alone a whole fight like he has been in the previous fight. So I think Umar gets it done by decision. But I would like him, to be really aggressive. I'd like to see him come out here and really try to dominate Mario. Not an easy task, but I also never pick Mario to win, and he always just keeps winning. So
yes.
But I'm going to pick Umar by decision. All right, moving on. First title fight of the night. Vacant strawweight title. Virna Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern.
Yeah, Virna is 22-3, Only one KO, 14 subs, 7 decisions. She's won 5 in a row. Performance of the night twice. She's a former Invicta strawweight champion from back in the day too. Dern is 15-5, no KOs, 8 subs, 7 decisions. Performance of the night 4 times. Fight of the night 3 times. So this could be a fun fight. It's probably going to decision unless somebody gets tapped out here at some point. I think Virna's going to be smart enough to not exchange and that much grappling with Dern, even though she's a great grappler herself. But I don't know. I'll go Virna by decision. I'm sure the UFC would love for Dern to win this. Yeah, I like Dern myself, but I just feel like, she's one. But something tells me it's just MMA guys like, nah, not going to happen. So, you know what? It's not a beauty contest. We're going to go Virna. But hey, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, by the way, too. Not throwing shade. I'm just saying, Dern obviously has that look that they would be very marketable and they would love to have her as champion. And she's very improved. So I won't be surprised anyway, but I'm going to go Virna by decision.
Yeah, 2 grapplers. So I really hope we don't see just a straight striking match like that does happen sometimes. I don't think we're going to. I think we're going to see some grappling. In a straight up jiu-jitsu match, I'd go with Dern 100% of the time. But Virna's MMA BJJ is elite, absolutely elite. So it is a very interesting matchup. And I do think they are going to engage in the grappling. But I think Dern's going to catch her. I think Mackenzie is just such a dog in there. And I think, getting this shot at the title, I think it's going to be very hard to stop her. So I'm going to go with Dern by submission. I think round 4. I think it'll be later. This could be a very fun fight. So, all right, moving on to our main event. Heavyweight title on the line. Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane.
Gane is 13-2, 6 KOs, 3 subs, 4 decisions. He's won 3 out of his last 4. He's a former interim UFC heavyweight champion. Performance tonight 3 times. Aspinall is 15-3, 12 KOs, 3 subs. He's never gone to decision for a win in his life. All right, so
he hasn't made it to the 3rd round. I don't think.
No. He's the current heavyweight champion, former interim heavyweight champion. 7 performances in the night. One thing I really love about this pay-per-view is I'm pretty sure by the time we get to the heavyweight main event, like if this was a late night card, I'd be like, awesome, because this is ending in round 1. And I think it will end in round 1, one way or another. I'm going to go with Aspinall, though. I'll say it's a smart money. It's heavyweights. Anything could happen. I'd be heartbroken if Gane wins, no offense, only because I think Tom is so good, and I want to eventually see him get a fight with an Alex Pereira or a John Jones, even though I don't really necessarily care. I want to see him beat John Jones. So that
for him, for Tom's legacy, I want those fights.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I'd like. But he hasn't fought in a while, and Gane is crafty and things like that. You could just smell like upsets and stuff like that nearby. So fights like this always kind of make me a little nervous for somebody I like. That being said, bet the house on Tom. Round 1, and that's no disrespect to Ciryl Gane. It's because Tom's just that good.
I do believe Gane will be Tom's longest fight in the UFC. So,
okay.
And Tom does enter with his chin high, and Gane could definitely catch him coming in because he has that, bladed like kickboxing karate style with great footwork. But I don't think he's going to be able to KO him when he comes in. I think even if he catches Tom gets him around the legs and takes him down. But I think Tom's going to try to KO Gane. I think he wants to make a statement. And then, if he does sense any danger, he just takes him down pretty easily and then subs him any way that he wants. Once he gets him down, it's any way he wants it. So
and forgetting about Tom's actual excellent wrestling ability too. Yeah. So yeah.
And he's huge. He's I think he cuts weight to get to 165, or he weighs right at 265. I mean, sorry. So I'll say late round 2 he gets a sub, because I think Gane's going to use a lot of footwork early to try to keep distance, knowing what's dangerous. So I do think this one goes to late in round 2, and that'll be Tom's longest fight in the UFC.
All right. There you have it. Chevy, why don't we tell people we got coming up one more time?
All right, November 1st, UFC Fight Night, Garcia versus Onama, 7 p.m. from the Apex, but mostly we'll be talking about this UFC 321. And then November 8th, UFC Fight Night, Bonfim versus Randy Brown, another 7 p.m. Apex card. And then November 15th, UFC 322, Della Maddalena versus Makhachev, 10 p.m. live from MSG in New York.
Nearing the end of the pay-per-view era. That'll be in November. So, yeah, we will see. Excited about that, actually. But in the meantime, let's enjoy UFC 321. And thanks for tuning into the Combatcast, guys.